Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. This video is brought to you today by Building Block Construction, your one-stop shop for all construction and design. I have their information in the description. Now let's get to some racing. All right, so this is my first race of the year. This is the Masters 50 plus 123. I think it might be a 1, 2, 3, 4, but anyway, I can't get clipped in here, not because I don't know what I'm doing, but I have a recent bike fit and my cleat position has been moved. So my brain just is not used to that new cleat position. So it took me a second to get clipped in, and of course, now we're rolling. This is the Roger Millikan crit, or Roger Millikan Memorial Grand Prix. It's out in Brea, California. It's a nice course. This is turn 1 here. Goes to a short downhill and then to another right-hand turn into some S's. So for us, it's not our normal 4-corner crit, but it's kind of ridden in somewhat of the same fashion. It's just a relatively high-speed crit, big field. I think we started with 74 riders today, and that's pretty good size field. So here's kind of, you go through the S's. Some people call it a chicane. It is really neither. You really can just straight line through there. You can see we're up over 32 miles per hour right now, so it's really fast. It's not anything you have to slow down for or have your bike at any severe lean angles. This is the fastest turn on the course here. This is basically, I'm going to call it turn 3, even though we have those small S's back there. I'm really going to call that turn 3. And then this is the most taxing part of the course here, where you get up to a little 4% incline. It's not bad at speed, though. We hit it at, close to 30 miles per hour at the beginning, 25, 26, 28. And then it's just a false flat here, drag all the way back to turn 1. And that's going to be one complete lap here. So yeah, moving up to the Masters, it's a big difference. Obviously, it's still just bike racing, but it is a big difference. You got a lot of experience in the field, a lot of really strong riders that's been racing for a long time. You got a lot better tactics, a lot better teamwork. You got more team members, and people that are willing to sacrifice for each other, for the team. So that changes the dynamics. You also have a lot more aggression. And I don't mean aggression in a bad way. It's just, moves are aggressive. People are confident in their bike handling skill levels. Sometimes rightfully so, sometimes not so much. But either way, it's a lot more aggressive, but it is more predictable. It's not reckless aggression. It's usually, predictable for this first race that I've experienced. And, overall, I would say it's safer than, say, like the Cat 4 or the 3-4 with the younger guys. Yeah, I would definitely say it's a lot more predictable. So yeah, I don't know too many people in this field personally. Like, I haven't gotten to race with this field. So there's some people that I've raced with before that I kind of came up with, and then there's some people I know from Montrose, stuff like that. But overall, it's a new field to me. The pace started off pretty good. That's Pat shooting up the inside there on me. And like I was saying, that's like an assertive move. It's not dangerous, nothing like that. But that's just something that at this level is going to be common, because I left the door open. Pat knows there's a gap in there. He shot in there to just try to move up and use it to his advantage. And that's just something that for me, it's not that I have to get used to it necessarily, but it's just I have to get used to the field, how everybody races, start finding out who's who in this field, and, just try to see where I fit into the new category. And also just the 50-minute race is a little bit of an adjustment as well. 10 minutes, not much. And technically, I think we only raced for 44 or 45 minutes. So it was a little bit short of 50, maybe a lap or two short of 50. But yeah, a little bit longer of a race does make a difference. It just depends on how fresh you are, what type of shape you are, and how fast the race is. That's Dustin in front of me. Dustin's a familiar wheel for me. So Dustin, Kendall, Tony Dominguez, a couple other guys that I either used to race with or ride Montrose and different group rides with. So you'll see me kind of hanging out with them off and on, just because it's predictable for me. A wheel I can trust for the most part. So be honest with you too. This is my first race of the season, so I was rusty. Fitness wise, I'm okay. I had a decent off season, but this last month or so had a little bit of a knee injury. I think I have like a slight tear in my left meniscus, but doc said I can race. My knee is still swollen a little bit of weakness in the left knee. But overall, just running the team, started a new team this year, so just running the team has got my fitness down a little bit from the off season, but really I'm just lacking a little bit of VO2, a little bit of repeatability. So yeah, as race season is just starting, I was a little rusty with some bike handling also. You'll see later in the race, just avoiding a reflector. I ended up running so wide in that turn 3, it was crazy. It was very disappointing for me. I pride myself on certain things, and being in control is one of them. And I definitely wasn't in control on that turn. I'll point it out when it comes up, but yeah, it's just a little bit of rust. Just got to get into race mode, and I am used to the big fields though. Every race I've been in for the most part is like 60 plus riders, so I don't even actually race in the small fields. So. Yeah, so for this race, being that it's my first race in the field, first race of the season, I really was pretty conservative, and I wanted to be. I didn't really know where my legs were at, where my lungs would be at, and like I said before, I didn't know where or how this field races. So I just really wanted to be conservative, stay in the pack. To be honest with you, if I just had a pack finish, I was kind of content with that for the day. Never raced this course as well. For whatever reason, every time Roger Millikan came around, I was either sick or injured for the last couple years. So my team has raced it. I've seen a bunch of videos. My wife has raced it, all that kind of stuff. But I had never raced it. So for the most part, I just wanted to start really conservative, just see where I was at. And then if I had a chance late in the race, try to move up and, accomplish something. But on race 1, new field, new category, lacking a little bit of fitness. I didn't even know if I'd stay in the race. I didn't even know if I'd be here at the end. So, but after a couple laps, the first couple laps were hot. After a couple laps, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I'd be fine in the race. Yeah, there's a little bump right here. And at a lean angle, depending on what lean angle you're at, if you start to pedal a little too soon, which I did on like the first or second lap, coming off of that bump, and I almost high-sided, that would have been a horrible start to the season, crashing in like the second lap or so. But my rear tire slid about a foot or two, before it caught, almost kicked me off the bike. You don't see it on the camera just because the camera's on my head, and these GoPros have great stabilization. So a lot of the bumps and stuff you see, that we feel or experience in the race, they're just not captured on the camera. The camera's pretty much always stable. But yeah, coming out of turn 2, there is a nice little bump there, and you got to take it just at the right angle, or you just got to be a little passive coming out. You can't just hammer on back on the pedals, without losing a little bit of contact to the road. Right here too, on the front straight, there's a manhole cover that's pretty right there to my right. That's pretty depressed. It doesn't look like anything when you go by, but if you walk out there and inspect it, it's a pretty good bump, and going over that can definitely like shake some things loose, have your front or back wheel hop off the ground pretty good. So yeah, we're a couple laps in now, and the pace kind of settles. I'm starting to get the hang of it a little bit already. Like I said again, it's really just bike racing. It's not that big of a deal. there is a difference in the field. There's a difference in the knowledge of the field and skill level, experience, which is good because, like I said, that makes it a lot more predictable. There's not as many like erratic moves, even though that you'll see some here and there. But overall, it makes it predictable. So it was really easy to kind of jump in and just adjust to the field. And again, this is only my first impression. This is only race one for me in this field. So, I moved up to Cat 3 this year, and I'll just be in the 50 plus all year for the most part. May do 40 plus as well, and probably some of the 30 plus 3-4. And I'll probably stay out of the 2-3 races and the P1 2-3 races. Just I'm not training for that this year. I'm more concentrating on running the team and supporting the women on our team. So that's going to be my main focus of the year, and I'll race whenever I can and try to keep my fitness as high as I can keep it. But I don't predict being in great shape for this year. Being the first race and, like I said, being a little bit rusty, there was times I didn't even know how far back I was in the field. Like I said, we started with 74 riders. I was trying to stay about 25th place or so, 30th maybe, just not too far back in the pack, but didn't really want to be too far at the front either. Just because when you're at the front, it's better at the front. It's always better at the front for the most part. But at the same time, with a little bit of adrenaline and depending on what's going on, you also can burn a little bit of energy being at the front if you're not in a good tucked in spot, So for me, I wanted to be a little bit further back, but I did not want to be this far back. You can see how far the field is stretched out. And when you're in a large field, you can easily get kind of hypnotized and not realize you're 5, 10, 15 spots off the tail end, and that's really not where you want to be. So good thing Kendall came up to me at one point and was like, hey, we got to move up. We can't be back here. And it was good because I didn't even realize I was that far back. It's hard to get a head count, so for the most part you're just going by feel and you're looking at the flow of the race, kind of things like that. So I kind of got caught a little bit too far inside there. Didn't really want to be at that angle. And you see I had to spike out a little bit. No big deal, but it's just not something I want to do repeatedly. This hill wasn't as taxing as I thought it would be. It's pretty steep. And when you preview the course, you don't have any adrenaline. You don't have a Peloton. You're kind of doing it under your own power. And it seemed like it was, pretty taxing at a slow speed. But just because we hit it with so much momentum, it was pretty easy. And that's Kendall right there to my left, rider 250. Yeah, he just told me like a second ago, like, hey, we're too far back. We got to move up a little bit. Yeah, and that's the new big orange kits. I kind of like that color design. It's a little bit busy, but I think it's a nice design. I like that. I like the highlights and the kind of the light blue highlights in it. So I think this is the first day they were wearing the new kits, but yeah, thumbs up to them for the new design. So like I mentioned before, in this field there would be a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but I guess it is a lot. There's a lot more tactics applied in the higher field. Like I said, a lot of the riders just have a lot of experience. It's 1, 2, 3. So by the time you reach Cat 1, you've done a lot of racing. For the most part, you've done a lot of racing. So. And again, there's bigger teams in here. A lot of people are not out just for personal glory. We're later in our life, so we kind of know where we fit into the race world. And, it's better to help somebody win that still has the ability than to kind of be delusional, knowing you're never going to win a race. It's kind of, fulfilling to help your team out and help people get across the finish line. So yeah, there's some attacks going off the front. I don't know if the breakaway has been established already, but you know, there's I think there's two breakaways. I think there was one that went early, that we end up running back pretty good. I shouldn't say we, but the field ends up running down, and that didn't go anywhere. And then a little bit after that, I think then there's another break that kind of gets out front and stays out for a while. I'm so far back though, I have no clue who's in them. I just remember seeing like a break of 4 or 5 go up the road, and you know, we didn't seem too you know, too motivated to chase it down. So as you can see there, I only have a 600 watt spike coming out of that corner, so obviously I'm starting to take it a little smoother, starting to get a hang of the flow of the course. I shoot over to the left here. There's to the right, there's pretty good protection on the right side here, and you can carry some speed with low power. There's some swirling wind on the course on that section there after, you know, turn 1 to those little S's. Through the S's, there's a pretty good little swirl of wind through there. And when we're on the right side, it's, you know, we're pretty protected over there on that right side. But when the group wants to, you know, kind of protect and go all the way to the left, exposes you to the wind when you're trying to shoot up the right side. You'll see later in the race, and it's not a big deal or anything, but there is a difference. There's a big difference. So, you know, when it's when we take the fast line and kind of straight line it through the S's, you're protected on the right side there, and you can easily move up a few spots. But if the group decides to protect itself and swing all the way to the left, kind of with the contours of the road, then you're exposed to a little bit more wind there, and it's a little harder to move up on that backside. Also, if you see, there's a bunch of orange paint spots on the road. Those are basically just trying to indicate where all the hazards are. There's a little bit of torn up asphalt, like I said, that raised sewer cover, and then there's some gas covers or gas meters or whatever they are out here in the access points in the road, and they're all depressed a few inches. So, you know, when you're riding, you don't really look at them as hazards. They just see those yellow marks. Some of them have paint around them. Those mean they're depressed in the road. They don't look like hazards, but when you hit them, yeah, it's like a couple inch drop and gives you a good little shake. So like this, when we're on the left side of the road, that right side gets really windy over there. But for the most part, when we straight line it, the right side is protected and you can move up some pretty good spots. But you can see here, nobody's really moving up. Everybody's on the left just because the peloton's trying to protect a little bit here. Yeah, I would say for me to have like decent success in this field, I probably need some teammates as well. You know, you probably need some cooperation, but like I said, I'm not really worried about my results. I'm just out here competing still, and just trying to concentrate on getting the team established and hopefully pick up more sponsors, and next year be able to support men and women. Right now I'm only supporting women financially. The men on my team are kind of on their own, myself included. But, you know, overall, just trying to pick up some more sponsors and build for the future and have a nice solid team out here. Eventually even try to maybe expand into some juniors and just get more people out here. You know, there's a bunch of junior races this morning, and it's kind of sad to see, like, you know, 4 juniors racing against themselves, you know, 6 people racing against themselves. You know, I think 74 Masters, I think, you know, maybe we should start some type of program where every rider has a sponsor or a new rider. You know, it doesn't matter the age, but juniors would be great. But it would be great if, you know, every rider can sponsor another rider, you know. I'm not saying that we're all wealthy or anything like that, but usually when we're up in life, we have accumulated a little bit of money in our lives, and it might be good even if we're just buying a kit for a junior, or I don't know, helping them get a bike, something. But it would be great to see us pouring into the sport a little bit just to keep it going. I got pinched a little bit right there. Rider 209 pinched me just a little bit. I mean, he's on a line, and I kind of put myself where I didn't need to be. You know, I could have protected myself a little bit by staying a little wider. But again, once you turn in early, which I did, you know, totally my fault. I turned in early. Once I turn in early and he turns in on the outside of me, that line's not going anywhere. He's going to have to hold that line, and I kind of pinched myself off there. Couldn't see the timer there. Couldn't tell how many more minutes we have to go in the race, but you know, felt like a little bit of a long race for me. Not too bad, but you know, once you get to the 30-minute mark, it's, you know, it goes by kind of quick after that. But just getting to that first 30 minutes seems a little long, you know, a little long in the tooth. Here's a good spot to move up. You know, after that long straightaway in turn one, a lot of people like to rest, coast. You can always move up a couple spots here if you need to, maybe like 5 spots, typically on the inside. This turn here, even though it looks a little tight, it's not, because we already know we're gonna, you know, release to the outside of the turn. So no one's gonna be turning tight there, so you can always shoot up the inside there as well. It's not like a dive bomb situation because no one's gonna be turning to the right. So it's more like a straight shot through there anyway. So I think that's Pat came back from one of his earlier breakaway attempts, you know, on the front. You know, Pat's that type of rider. He's always looking for a breakaway or to attack or just soften up the field. He just loves racing his bike. So, yeah, you're always going to see Pat on the front end at some point of the race going off the front. I'm not there yet. So I like being on the inside a lot, but sometimes coming up here, like, you know, it just gets kind of tight. But again, we know it's not a super tight turn. You know, the turns are pretty open, even though this isn't like a traditional 90-degree 4-corner crit. The turns are actually really open. So no matter how tight you get, you pretty much know the peloton is not going to continue to turn right. So it's never really a situation where you're going to, you know, get cut off too bad or collide with anyone. It's really going to be inside to outside exit. Got a little tight in there, so I just backed off a little bit leading up to turn one. You know, it's kind of funny. You know, anybody that follows my channel, watches my videos, you know, I try to do a lot of teaching in my races, you know, and when you're teaching, it's really relevant to those that can learn from you, you know. And in this field, I won't be doing much teaching, you know. So, you know, my commentary I still like to do the voiceovers, things like that. But for the most part, I'm not teaching anyone in this field, you know. Most of the riders in this field have a lot more experience than I do, which experience is not everything. It's also about application and just being able to relay your message or translate your message to other people in a way that they can understand it. It's not just about how much you know or how much experience you have, but at the same time, for this field, almost everyone in this field knows everything I know, you know. I would hope, at least. So yeah, when I do the voiceovers, it's not exactly about teaching moments for this field, but it still can be educational for those in different categories and those new to racing and those that, you know, just the following that I've built over the last couple years. But it's just a different level of racing, though. So just understand, like, it's not contradictions from things that I've said in the past. It just applies different because the skill level's different, the field is different, the experience levels are different. So, you know, someone shooting up the inside late is not the same as someone shooting up the inside late in a Cat 5 race or a Cat 4 race or a 4-5 or 3-4. It's different. Now, the overall principles still apply. However, there's small differences that can determine if that's like something you should be doing or not. So again, when you're protected here and we kind of can shoot up the right side, you can see I'm not even doing 200 watts. I'm basically coasting and made up a couple spots there. Here, I still wasn't real confident to go late up the inside here just because, again, high-speed turn. You don't know if someone's going to truly hit an apex or just run it wide. So just risk versus reward wasn't worth it in my first race, and I just stay calm and ride a little conservative for this whole race. I'm a little out in the wind here, but I didn't know I was trying to still find a way to move up just a little bit. We all have to put in a little effort from that turn, from the uphill turn in turn 4 through the first part of the front straight. Everyone has to put in a small effort there. So if you move up at that point, it's not that big of a deal. You're not wasting too much energy, and really it's energy compared to the rest of the field. And because everybody's putting in an effort, it's still a good spot to move up. There's so many bumps and stuff in this road, though. There's just some things you gotta kind of gotta avoid. You know, if you want to avoid pinch flats and some bar wobbles and all that kind of stuff. There's some manhole covers and different things. You learn it pretty well, but there's some things you gotta avoid and just not be in those spots approaching different sections of the course. So I'm sure by now you can already tell this is a lot different race than some of my previous races. It's really stretched out for a majority of the race. We're not really just. That's pretty tight there, pretty aggressive move there from the big orange rider, but he made it through. But it was a little late coming through the turn and came across the guy in blue a little bit, but everyone's upright, so it's all good. But yeah, you can tell we're stretched out majority of the race, so there's always someone pushing the pace a little bit on the front. Different than like some of the, let's say, a Cat 4 race where it's off and on a little bit more punchy. Guy hit those bumps there from Big Orange and came unclipped for a second. But yeah, it's a little bit more. This is a little faster, like a little more flowing. It's not really that the speed was so great. It's decent speed for this course. I think we averaged. I think I averaged 26.3 or 26.4. There's Anthony was coming back a little bit. I didn't know if he had a problem. He was coming back so slow. I just asked him if he was good. He said, yeah, he's good. But he's probably just recovering. Just taking time to fall back in the field for a little bit of recovery, and then of course we'll regroup and move back up. But at first I thought he had like a mechanical or something just because his speed was, so slow coming through that section. It's very easy to get shuffled back in a field like this. Yeah, like I said, sometimes you get a little mesmerized and you think you're in a good spot, and next thing you know, you're 15, 20 spots back just because the field is so large. The road is very wide, though. We have a lot of room here. Even on the front straight where they narrow the road purposely with some of the cones and the guardrails, but even the front straight's still really wide. I mean, this is getting into like the most narrow part of the course here, and then after turn 1. But as you see, it's like plenty of room. It's still really wide. All right, we're definitely moving into the second half of the race now. Things will settle for a little bit. Like I said, it starts off hot. As you can tell now, this is about as bunched up as we've been. So it's definitely settling. People are regrouping a little bit, number one. And number two, the breakaway I think has went now. I think there's like 4 or 5 guys in a break. up front. And, I don't know. We had some pretty good teams in here. We had some pretty large teams. I think Evoke had a large numbers in here. Big Orange had some pretty good numbers. But I don't know. I don't know what happened. Like, it seems like nobody ended up chasing down the break. A little bit of a spoiler alert. The break does stay away. But yeah, I don't know why. I don't know. No one organized, or maybe they didn't, out of sight, out of mind. Maybe they didn't know. Because I know late in the race, someone had asked, like, hey, did we catch the break? And I was like, nope. It's 6, 7 laps to go. I was like, the break's gone. It ain't coming back, But so I don't know how we let it creep away so easily. In theory, when you have larger teams, usually those larger teams, if they're not represented in the break, they usually kind of take on the responsibility of running down the break. But yeah, it didn't happen today, so don't know exactly how those guys kind of snuck away. Yeah, and kudos to the winner. I think he was the oldest guy in the crit, 63 years old. I think he ended up winning it, which gives me some hope. He's 10 years older than me, so maybe I can get better in time. And I think the young man over there in the blue with the blue helmet right here, I don't know what rider it is, 206. I'm not sure if it's him, but somebody, it looks like him. I'm not sure, but somebody goes wide later and crashes in turn 3. I didn't see it at the time, so I'm guessing it happened behind me on the last lap, but I think that was the only crash of the day. So, for the most part, pretty safe race. And I think it was a solo rider that just went wide and crashed. So overall, I think, yeah, safe race. It's a fun race to be in. Like I said, first race of the year. It was a good race to be in. And it was a little different than, just doing a CBR, just all drafting CBR type race, And this CBR put this race on as well. But I'm talking about the traditional Carson and Dominguez course. I love this back straight. I like the high speed stuff, and it's high speed with no effort, So this is the one I think I ran wide on just because I was trying to avoid a reflector. Completely got that wrong. I ended up adjusting mid-turn to avoid hitting a reflector at lean angle and just ran wide on myself, Just not the greatest bike handling right there. The legs felt good though. Despite having my knee issue, the legs felt good. While I was warming up, I did have a little bit of a left hip flexor cramp, but once we started racing, it kind of worked itself out. I know Tony Dominguez was, talking about cramping during the race. His left leg was cramping. I saw some of the guys earlier cramp as well. And, you can see it's 66 degrees, which is not that warm. However, it's been so cold lately, it felt hot, while we were racing. The 66 degrees felt hot. And that's just part of, like, the time of year that we're in. You get a little bit of cold weather for a month or two. And anytime it warms up at all, it feels like it's, 80 degrees. And, 66 is actually perfect racing weather. All right, so I think we're down to about 8 to 10 laps to go here. Could be less. I'll try to see if I can see the, the timing board or the lap board when we go by. Definitely got a little surge going here, and it's stretched out. Like I said, it's a little weird that, we weren't that coordinated to try to run down the break, but like I said, I'm not at the front, so I don't know what was going on or what people are thinking. I'm a little too far back to really see what was going on up there. And of course, I just didn't even pay attention to the lap board at all. That's Dustin coming backwards a little bit here, just trying to regroup. I will say this though too, you know, talking about the difference of fields of moving up. When you're in this field, it does feel like you're racing. You know, sometime in the lower categories, you're not always racing. Sometimes you're just in a big blob circulating the course. And here it does feel a little bit more like you're actually racing, you know, for a longer duration. So, you know, there's a little bit of mental energy that you spend as well. You know, it's very calm. It's nothing to like stress over or anything like that. But you just know, like, you can get caught off guard because, like I said, it's never like 100% relaxed. There's always a little bit of something going on. There's always a little game playing. There's always a tactic going on. So there I started to drift early to the inside, which is something I teach against, you know. Again, it's just the roads are so wide, you kind of get enticed to start turning in early, and it's not a good thing. You don't really want to turn in early, especially on high-speed turns. You want to turn later, late as possible, really. It's just a lack of concentration. Yeah, you see a little movement on the right side, people moving up. Again, for me, the inside is always kind of the best spot to make up, best place to make up some positions. I know some people like to kind of run around the outside. For me, I like to stay away from the outside as much as possible. Later in this race, I do go to the outside, and honestly, it was a little bit of like, you know, just a little desperation trying to find a spot to move up late in the race. And it didn't work out. It wasn't the right way to go. Should have stayed on the inside. But of course, everyone knows that. So a lot of people are using the inside to make up spots. Do a pretty good job of making up a few spots here. Probably made up a good 10, 15 spots here. Just kind of going to the inside and then moving through the middle. Back up to Dustin's wheel here. I know the laps are counting down, so we probably got like 6 laps left. I said 6 laps. I meant, I don't know, we're doing like 2 minutes a lap. I think my fastest lap was maybe 137 or so. But I think we're doing, you know, 140, 150 minute laps, stuff like that. So yeah, I just usually will round it to 2 minutes and say, I think we may only have 3, 4 laps left. This might be the third. It looks like I cannot see that board. Not even going to pretend like my eyes are that good. But yeah, I'm guessing we're down to 3 laps to go. Yeah, I think we are at 3, 4 laps to go. You always recognize Anthony has that unique riding style. You know, he's really low with his elbows out. Should have stayed on his wheel. I know he has experience, and he's usually there at the end of it. You know, pretty much every race he's in, he's usually, you know, somewhere in the top 5, top 10. I should have just kind of attached to his wheel there and said, hey, let's, you know, learn something here and see what he does at the end of the race, how he stays in good position. And as you can see, I'd kind of drifted off of wheels here and lost about 6 positions here. And I was kind of playing games in my head because the game plan was just be conservative, just kind of get out there and, you know, adjust to the field, try to find out how these guys race. But, you know, once you're out there, if you see 241 kind of gets pushed over into me here, and I end up getting hip checked there. So shoulder was on his hip. But I think that, yeah, the big orange rider kind of made sure he didn't go into the barrier. So he kind of put his hand on him. And then 241 came over and kind of swung into me a little bit. And this is what happens at the end of the race. You see people are a little bit more urgency. They have a little bit more urgency to move up. And sometimes you can just kind of get that tunnel vision going. So yeah, like I said, I think this is the last couple laps here. We might have one to go after this one. I don't know if this is the last lap or we have one to go. I think we have one to go after this one. See some guys over there on the right kind of get a little bumpy. So here, yeah, I saw Kendall's wheel. I was going to follow Kendall here, and I was just late on the trigger. I did not react, and that could have got me up a good 30 spots right there. Now, of course, we're a little late. So again, this is where I said I didn't really want to be on the outside, and I am. I should have followed Kendall's wheel if I was going to move to the outside. When he shot up the left side, I should have just went with that little group of three. But like I said, I was also, you know, in between mixed emotions here with sticking to the game plan, just being conservative and using this race as kind of like a, you know, get used to the field. And then at the same time, your competitive juices start flowing and you kind of want to move up and do better. It's, you know, it's last lap now. So when you're here and you kind of do what you can. So yeah, I think this is the last lap, going into the last lap here. The breakaway's gone. You know, 4 or 5 guys in the break, they're gone, obviously. You see guys are coming back. People just starting to fade a little bit. Thought Dustin was fading here a little too. That's Dustin to my right. Thought he was fading. Probably just in the hurt locker a little bit. So I don't even know what position I'm in here, but you can see to the right, guys falling back a little bit. This is, you know, this is normal. And little aggression there, shoots up the inside late, but like I said, we always exit to the outside of the turn here, so that's really it's not a dangerous move. Nobody's going to come across to the right there. So yeah, it's good aggression, just shooting up there. If you leave the lane open, you know, someone's going to take it. So I got Dustin and Kendall in front of me here, both wheels that I'm familiar with from Montrose, and you know, I've known Dustin for over 25 years probably now. But yep, I'm a little passive. Do carry a little bit of speed here. Got open air in front of me, so can get a little acceleration here. I'm not really giving it my all or anything yet, but I do want to try to launch a little sprint here just for practice. So I'm trying to be patient a little bit, let people fade. Come off here and launch a little bit of a sprint. I don't really have good sprint legs or anything, but you know, still get a little bit of momentum, able to make up a good 6, 7, 8 spots here. And just roll across the line in, I think, 26 spot or so, 26 out of 74. So race 1 in the books. Thank you guys for watching. And I don't know, my next one might be the Major Motion King and Queens crit. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And once again, this video is sponsored by Building Block Construction, and I'll have their information in the description. See you next time.